Welcome back. I'm here with Glen Wagstaff, founder and managing partner of Vivos, PLLC. Glen, one area that I haven't heard of anyone else focusing on is immigration planning. What does that even mean?
You know, most of the time when immigrants are here, immigrant families in particular, they just assume that if the worst happens and they happen to be, picked up by ICE or, they end up being deported, that there's nothing that they can do about it. And they end up abandoning property. They leave children maybe with family members. But in the end, their entire life here is basically abandoned. You can actually proactively plan around that, and a lot of the property and value that they have, they can leave documents in place to preserve and make sure that their children are not taken from them, their parental rights are not lost, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's really what it gets to.
So this is not just for people who are here legally. This is for people who come here without legal documentation.
Whether a person has legal status here or not, there's nothing stopping them from doing a proper plan for their estate and to make sure that if they were ever deported, that they could leave someone with power of attorney to collect paychecks, to be able to sell their property, to manage their business, all of those types of things that they would want to make sure that they took care of even in their absence. So yeah, of course, I mean, a lot of the planning is for people who have property abroad in other countries, and they're immigrants that have come maybe with needs from their home countries, but also for people who are here illegally. There's nothing stopping them from doing planning. In fact, it's a very wise thing to do in the case that the worst happens to them.
Wonderful. Now, something that I've seen in the news recently was a situation where we had children who were taken from their parents. Is there something that you could do to help prevent and plan for these families?
Well, yeah, by default, if someone's collected and they're incarcerated, and it's not just for deportation, but if they can't find somebody immediately to be able to take in, to take care of the children, or if the children don't have legal status, they're going to go in a foster care program, and they're going to be placed within a home. And recently we've heard that some of those children, they've misplaced in the foster care program. Sometimes they're not reunited with their parents. And so it's important that you leave a guardian designated to be able to make decisions for the children, take care of them, and permission to travel so that if you are in another country, that they can reunite with you. And a lot of times when you leave the children with grandma, right, the school is going to ask her to get a guardianship. And as soon as the court grants guardianship, often they'll terminate the parent's rights over the child. So it's important not just to designate a guardian, but also to preserve the parent's rights so that if they ever, have a need to reunite with their children in their home country, that's not going to be a problem either.
They could lose their rights as parents.
That's often happens when a guardianship is given to someone else, whether it's a family member or otherwise.
That's terrifying. Now, are there any other needs that immigrants need to take into account when they're planning their future?
Yeah, one of the big ones is if they're not citizens here in the United States and they end up passing away outside of the United States as a non-resident alien, they would actually have potential for estate tax exposure. And, as citizens, we have a fairly high exemption amount that we don't have to worry about that generally. But immigrant families, if they're non-resident aliens for tax purposes, their exemption amount is only $60,000, and you can get above that very quickly if you own a home or if you have savings, and the tax rates can get pretty steep. So planning around that is another really important aspect that we can provide.